the way the IRS looks at these different plans is the naming of them too. Okay, so all of this is in the 400 section of the IRS code. So you have your 401k, right? Which is something that is invested in your stock market, taken out from your employer. You pay Suka, Fida, FIDA, right? You pay all the taxes. And then the money gets invested into the stock market. And then only after the money's been invested for a set amount of years are you then allowed to take the money out by selling the stock, and then you pay taxes on it. That's a 401k. Then you have your 403b. That's your government pension.
Okay.
So those are anybody who works for the federal government or for the city and county, and you have a pension, it's usually going to be a 403b. And a 403b, this also includes teachers. Your 403b is usually something that is invested through mutual funds or insurance companies, depending on your state and your county.
Estábamos en el patio de Ivania.
Right.
El patio de Ivania, la última posesión que ella tomó sobre el patio e hizo su enramada.
Right.
En la parte trasera de la casa.
Yeah.
All right, so la última vez que estuvimos platicando lo dejamos allá cuando yo estaba trabajando en la Compañía Nacional de Seguros de Nicaragua. Y te dije yo que ahí habían tres clases de problemas, de programas. Tres clases de programas que le vendían a la gente. Uno que era un programa de capitalización, el otro era un programa de vida y vivienda, y el otro, por supuesto, era el programa de vida, simplemente asegurando a la gente de vida. Ahora, debe de recordar de que esto fue en el año 60, al fines de los años 57, en los años 60. Todavía Nicaragua estaba comenzando a entender un poquito sobre las finanzas comerciales y estaba tratando de venderle a la gente un seguro, de enseñarle a la gente cómo hacer ahorro. Ahora, las compañías no tenían programas de pensiones. Entonces, el trabajador con las compañías tenía que hacer su propia pensión. Y entonces, este programa fue diseñado por un grupo de actuarios de Chile y llegaron a introducir estos programas de ahorro de A, B y C, tres grados de capitalización, A, B y C. El grado 1A, la gente pagaba 8 córdobas con 25 centavos mensuales.
Okay.
El grado B pagaba 5 córdobas con 40 centavos. Y el grado C, que era el programa de los pobres, que pagaba $4 al mes. O sea, de que los dotes del grado A era de 10 años, el dote del grado B era de 15 años y el dote del grado C era de 20 años. Imagínate estar ahorrando $4 toda la semana, o $4 todos los meses, para poder ahorrar 1,000 córdobas, por ejemplo.
Right.
Ahora, había la garantía. ¿Cuál era la garantía que iban a pagar? Estos programas trabajaban de acuerdo con la lotería, con los 3 o 4 números de la lotería. Si tu contrato caía con el número de la lotería, entonces eras un ganador inmediatamente. Y cuando eso sucedía, los agentes salían en carrera donde había caído la lotería para ver si alguien había también ganado el dote, los $1,000, los 1,000 córdobas de cada uno de esos programas. Entonces la gente lo podía cambiar. En vez de tener un programa de capitalización, entonces podrías tener un programa de vida y vivienda. Este era un dote mayor, un dote más caro, pero te daba la oportunidad de que podías, con ese capital, podías por lo menos poner el down payment para conseguir una casa. Ese era un programa para la clase media, porque ya la gente quería tener una vivienda. Y por supuesto, si ganabas suficiente, si eres bien afortunado y ganabas en la lotería, entonces podías comprar un seguro de vida. Pero ya el seguro de vida te aseguraba pues tu vida, punto. Pero el programa de vida y vivienda fue un programa muy bueno, porque eso le dio oportunidad a la gente de comprar no solamente un programa de vida, sino que también podía comprar una vivienda. Y entonces en ese momento el gobierno comenzó a hacer viviendas en todo Managua, y se hicieron muchos barrios con esas viviendas. Claro, todo eso se perdió en el terremoto, pero ese es otro problema. Ese es otra vez hablamos sobre eso en otro podcast. Hablamos del terremoto.
Okay.
Pero ahorita estamos hablando acerca de la aseguranza y se va a caer eso. En la aseguranza y se oigó. Y más que todo el ahorro. Ahora, cuando llegamos a San Francisco, llegamos a trabajar a San Francisco, lo primordial de San Francisco es que era una ciudad donde estaban los sindicatos. Entonces, en todo gremio que uno llegaba a trabajar, había un sindicato. Así que la única manera que tú podías agarrar un buen trabajo era por medio del sindicato. El sindicato, y en San Francisco estaban todas las organizaciones del sindicato.
Yeah.
Y esa era la manera de hacerlo. Ahora, habían sindicatos que estaban bien fuertes, y esos sindicatos tenían programas de salud y tenían programas también de vivienda. Trabajando en los hoteles, por ejemplo,
Right.
en el servicio, el sindicato de los waiters, o los sindicatos de los busboys, o los sindicatos de los lavaplatos, esa gente tenía también su propio sindicato y tenía también su propio seguro. Uno pagaba una cuota al sindicato, y con esa cuota pues pagabas no solamente la cuota mensual, pero también te pagabas el derecho a ciertos beneficios. Y ahí es donde viene el programa de Kaiser.
Right.
Fuerte, el programa de Kaiser de San Francisco era un programa muy fuerte. Y la ciudad y las entidades gubernamentales tenían ese programa directo con ellos. Todo el mundo estaba asegurado, y todo el mundo tenía que ir a donde Kaiser.
Right. And Kaiser is Kaiser Permanente.
Kaiser Permanente.
And the origin story, I think it's Kaiser Industries, but essentially Kaiser Corporation was a metal company.
Yeah.
And they made metal.
Mm-hmm.
That was their forte, metal, aluminum.
En San Francisco.
All over California.
All over California.
All over California. And so at some point, the business diversified into purchasing an energy company. Okay. And then in the energy company, they had a lot of employees who were essentially out in the middle of nowhere and looking for new sources of energy, getting sick, getting injured, getting hurt on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And since they're I think it was like a solid 50, 60 miles away from Sacramento, it made sense for the Kaiser Corporation to figure out how to create a nonprofit for health. And then they got into the insurance business for setting up health insurance for their employees who were getting injured out in the middle of nowhere. And they figured out this is a really great business. We should try to sell this to other people in the state of California, and the city and county of San Francisco was one of them that decided we can take this on and we can now offer health insurance to our employees. Because in retrospect and in understanding the logistics business, right, of San Francisco being a port next to Oakland, they're utilizing and needing metal. And so there was also I'll scratch your back if you're able to scratch mine. And with this nonprofit foundation of Kaiser Permanente, they were able to do health insurance.
Estaba Vector también ahí por medio.
Lots of corporations who had lots of employees became the base of which that you could now sell health insurance. And city and county were the first ones to say, okay, let's implement some of this.
Un programa, claro.
And that's the basis of Kaiser starting.
Claro, y también en la finanza, como te dije la vez pasada, ya para el año 60, al final de 60, cuando estábamos trabajando en el Wells Fargo Bank, entonces todos los bancos, Wells Fargo Bank, Kaiser, el Cracker Bank, Banco de América, que eran los bancos de San Francisco, ellos también estaban afiliados a Kaiser. Y también la gente usaban el Hospital General, que era el hospital de los pobres. Si tú no podías trabajar por medio de las uniones, o por medio de la ciudad, o por medio de esas corporaciones grandes que trabajaban con el puerto, Vector, como dices tú, Vector, también la Vector Corporation, y la corporación de Metal Kaiser.
Well, when you had a lot of unions. When there was a lot of unions,
muchos sindicatos.
You had people who wanted certain basic benefits, and health is one of them.
Claro.
And I think with the FDR's New Deal, we figured out a way to try to charge this into the whole system overall.
Claro.
To help implement.
Claro. Ahora, acuérdate que en el año 60, en el año 66, fue cuando comenzaron a hablar sobre Medicare.
Right.
Y ahí no se hizo nada sobre salud. El gobierno federal dijo, no, yo no quiero estar metido en nada de médico.
Yeah, because that's the basis of creating, welfare systems. And so they don't want to do...
No querían meterse en problemas de once varas.
A bridge too far.
Un poquito largo. Pero de todas maneras, Medicare se implementó en los años 60 por medio del senador Johnson, que también era el presidente Johnson, después que mataron a Kennedy.
Which I feel like Nixon versus Kennedy over here. You have this very nice shirt, and I look like a janitor or something.
No, pero tú tienes ahí a todos los filósofos, tienes a todos.
The very faded out philosophers, yeah.
Yo tengo mi camisa de checker. Okay, entonces, ya para los años 70, ya las corporaciones grandes ya estaban metidos en el mercado.
Right.
Y entonces esos fondos que las compañías estaban haciendo de todo estos ahorros, lo pusieron a trabajar en la plata privada para comprar y hacer más plata con el mercado, ¿no?
Yeah.
Entonces ahí las compañías grandes comenzaron a dar pensiones.
Mm-hmm.
Comenzaron a dar pensiones a la gente y los sindicatos comenzaron a negociar pensiones también para los trabajadores. Pero para recibir pensión tenía uno que tener cierto tiempo trabajando, tener 5 o 6 años trabajando dentro de la corporación, tener una familia, tener una casa. Es decir, había un montón de requisitos para tener grados de pensiones.
Right. All of that changed in 1974 was the big shift
Yeah.
for most things. Smog being one of them. The ERISA Act,
Right.
being the other one, and from the ERISA Act, that's where all these pensions essentially got created.
Right.
All these pension plans were formed and initiated by the government to allow corporations to give employees this benefit so that then they could write it off.
Right.
And so that's the relationship with the tax form,
right?
And that starts in 1974. And yeah, all the pension requirements, because these are usually, if we're getting into the weeds of it, these are defined benefit plans.
Plan de
right?
beneficios. Sí.
Defined.
Sí,
and
claro.
So the definition in the contract, because these are all contractual agreements
Right.
with all of your employees,
Right.
says, okay, now that you're signing yourself saying that you're an employee of this company, so long as you meet the requirement of, right, you work here for, let's say, 5 years, 10 years,
Right.
15 years. These are the defined benefits that you're going to be paying in. And the way that the corporation is going to do this is by taking some of this essentially from your paycheck.
Right. Un porcentaje.
And so in some cases there were agreements, right? Essentially in the 60s was based off of the utilization of using insurance and annuities
Right.
for the most part.
Right.
To guarantee and create guaranteed pensions
Right.
for people, to say, okay, you work at this company for 15 years, 20 years, we're going to guarantee that at retirement you're going to receive X.
La compañía que compró el viejito, ¿cómo se llama? Que era una compañía de seguros que la compró a un precio.
Right. But that's you're talking about Buffett
Yeah.
when he's learning, because Buffett learned about GEICO,
Right. GEICO.
right, which is government employees compensation
Plan, algo así.
in income,
Right.
or no, government employees, corporation, employee.
Pero era
Organization.
Era una
It was a government ran
Yeah.
pension plan
Pension plan. Yeah.
and insurance plan for their employees, for people who work for the government. That's GEICO. And as I understand it, Buffett spent like a weekend, with some of these insurance and pension specialists, essentially explaining what they do and how they come up with the actualization of people and life and the value of them, and then at the same time how they can economically invest what that money comes out of, and this is the basis of a pension fund.
Right.
That was the ticket to Buffett's ears to say, okay, I want to buy as much of this that I can.
Creo que compró 60% primero.
Well, slowly
Yeah,
he started purchasing
Right.
into the company shares, and because it's a cash cow.
Ya, pero fue una combinación de plata federal con plata de privada.
Right. Because it's money that gets invested into the markets.
Pues dinero que estaba metido en el mercado. Esa era la condición,
Right.
que tenía que estar dentro del mercado.
Right. Well, I mean, that's how the whole system
Entonces, el
here
sistema
works.
También hicieron los programas de IRA.
Right.
El
IRAs.
401k, del 401k program también lo hicieron ahí, en los años 70. Y me acuerdo que estaba el departamento de Labor, que era el que manejaba todo ese asunto de los programas de IRA.
Right. So, just to make it really basic, right?
Right, no, claro.
A pension is usually a portion of the money that is taken out of your paycheck and out of everybody's paycheck,
Right.
that is then invested
En el mercado.
into the stock market,
Sí.
into varying different amounts of funds. Some of them are tied to T-bills. Some of them are tied to bonds.
Sí.
And the majority of it is tied to the S&P 500, the NASDAQ,
Right.
things of that nature. Whereas an IRA is usually not so much on the pension side. It's more of, or at least in this case today, individual stocks
Right.
or ETFs, exchange traded funds.
Sí.
So it's the entire exchange market.
Sí.
So the S&P 500, the Standard & Poor's, is a list of 500 companies that are the top 500 companies in the United States, and that is then used as an exchange market
Mm.
for people who could then lend money, right? Like some clients go out and say, I have X amount of dollars in the S&P 500, I'd like a loan for this amount of money. And their broker or the bank would say, Done.
Entonces hay reserva para ciertas cosas, ¿me entiendes?
but I'm trying to make a delineation between having money in just insurance products,
Right.
stock products, individual stock companies, and exchanges. And the IRA,
Y cada una de esas plata, cada uno de esos fondos están designados con ciertos beneficios y no se pueden cruzar uno con el otro, ¿me entiendes?
Right.
Igual como sucedió con los Savings and Loans Association, que el Savings and Loans Association se usaba nada más para crear préstamos bancarios
right,
para comprar casa. Y fue cuando comenzaron a cambiar, a utilizar esa plata y se perdió en el año 85, ¿te acuerdas?
no, I wasn't alive, but
No estaba
I
ahí.
I do understand it because I have looked at it.
Okay. All right. So, entonces, cada uno de esos fondos está designado para ciertas cosas y no se pueden intercambiar los fondos de un lado para el otro. Todo tiene que ser así como tú dices, el beneficio o
Well, no, I mean the way the IRS looks at these different plans is the naming of them too.
sí,
Okay, so all of this is in the 400 section
sí,
of the IRS code. So you have your 401k, right?
ujú,
Which is something that is invested in your stock market, taken out from your employer. You pay suka, fida, fida, right? You pay all the taxes,
sí,
and then the money gets invested into the stock market. And then only after the money's been invested for a set amount of years are you then allowed to take the money out by selling the stock, and then you pay taxes on it. That's a 401k.
right,
Then you have your 403b. That's your government pension.
okay,
So those are anybody who works for the federal government or for the city and county and you have a pension, it's usually going to be a 403b. And a 403b, this also includes teachers. Your 403b is usually something that is invested through mutual funds or insurance companies, depending on your state and your county. Then you can get into, on the high end, just insurance products, which are just your 412 E3s. That's whole life insurance and annuities. That's more of something if you have your own corporation, you have your set employees, and you want to give them that benefit. Inside,
Esto es bien exclusivo eso, ¿no?
you have to be in the know. You have to have, ideally, I mean, in my opinion, you should be netting closer.
Pero si le vas a dar esos beneficios a tus oficiales de la corporación, tiene que estar abierto para
Correct.
todo el mundo.
It has to be for everyone.
Tiene que estar abierto para todo
Right.
el mundo.
And so
Eso es carísimo.
very expensive.
Sí.
It's extremely expensive.
Sí.
Ridiculously expensive.
Claro, eso es muy caro.
And so a strategy, right, could be if you're earning $2 or $3 million, you could potentially use one of these plans, like this 412 plan would be a great plan.
Si tenés tu propia corporación y no tenés empleado.
Correct. Or you're your own employee.
O eres tú tu propio empleado.
And you have another entity
Right.
that could help you take some of this burden of the tax.
Claro.
And you're at that 2-3 million plus.
Pero la obligación que se toma es una obligación bien fuerte.
Yeah, the clients I deal with are usually above $300,000 to $400,000, $500,000 a year in contributions.
Right.
Meaning that's how much money they're setting aside
Sí.
in these retirement plans.
Y tiene que hacerlo por cierto determinado tiempo.
Yeah, no, it's a contract.
Es
And
un
so
contrato.
it's you're saying, okay, I'm making $6 million a year. I'm going to be willing to contribute $450,000 a year every single year for the next 15 years. And for that, I'm going to have a $45 billion estate contract that I can use for my estate tax planning. And you got to structure that.
Ese es un programa de Defined Contribution Plan.
Right.
Eh,
Which is different than a benefit.
Con Defined Benefit Plan, que era lo que
100%.
estábamos hablando anteriormente.
Right. And the benefits could then even include, if you go on the extreme side,
Yeah.
okay, you're going to get access to the corporate jet. You're going to get access to the corporate healthcare plan.
Okay.
You're going to get access to a meal plan. You're going to get access to the country club.
Okay. Pero eso iba creando un problema muy serio, que es el problema de los unfunded liability.
Right. Which is why most public companies today don't use this system at all. And so instead, we've now entered into what are known as employee stock option plans,
Okay.
ESOPs.
Es otra cosa, ¿no?
And these ESOPs were also created under ERISA in 1974.
Right.
And it is now something that is more utilized really since the 1980s because of the corporate raiders
Right.
not wanting to pay these
The
pension plans
yeah.
and figuring out, instead of paying into this entire system,
Right.
because it's the insurance, mutual fund, and stock companies, that it's more profitable and more beneficial for the employee and the employer
Claro.
to only receive stock, assuming that we're going to be moving up in the quadrant up and to the right.
So, por eso fue más fácil agarrar estas corporaciones, sacarlas fuera de los Estados Unidos
Right.
y ir a producir su producto en México.
Well, the holding.
Sí.
The holding. So if we're really going to get into a company, let's look at Apple.
No, yo no quiero meterme con ninguna compañía, porque yo no las entiendo. Tú tal vez las entiendes, pero yo te estoy
So,
diciendo
I mean,
más el principio. Cuando llegó el presidente Reagan, por ejemplo, el supply side economy que le pusieron fue que agarraron todo eso unfunded liability y se borrón y cuenta nueva y los limpiaron y los llevaron.
Kick it forward.
Para otros países, a México, a China, a India.
But that's what I'm saying with Apple.
Okay.
Apple took it to Ireland.
Pero Apple es del 90. Yo estoy hablando del 80.
No. Apple was started like 1975, 1976.
Sí. No entiendo. No entiendo yo cuándo fue.
But it's not until the late 80s, early 90s that they realize we have an issue here, and it might make most sense to move headquarters from Cupertino, California, and saying that the headquarters, the holding company, the thing that owns all of everything else, is located in Dublin, Ireland.
Okay.
And there's tax benefits for them to not have it there.
Oh, okay.
And so only the employee side is located in Cupertino, California, and they receive all of the other tax benefits for the corporate side there. Okay. Whereas the head holding company is in Ireland.
Okay. All right. So es otro problema.
Right. And the phones today are made and produced in China, sold for a profit in everywhere of the whole of the wide of the world.
Right.
And the profits are then sent into a holding company that is located in Ireland.
Okay.
And they haven't realized most of those gains.
Okay. So hay un montón de plata. Entonces,
right. And there's a lot of tax.
There's a lot of tax ahí outstanding.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Bueno, ya ve. Entonces, seguimos de nuevo con los retiros, ¿me entendés?
Right.
Porque yo creo que eso es lo importante que un trabajador debe saber, que tiene que tener un retiro. Sobre todo ahora que el Seguro Social cada día ya no tiene plata.
Right. And we don't know what's going to happen with Kamala, or we don't know what's going to happen with Trump. Sí. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy.
Los dos tienen un plan que no es un plan. Yo tengo un plan que no es un plan.
Right. That's another 100 pesos, as you said.
100 pesos, ¿me entiendes? Entonces ahí viene el problema del retiro y el seguro social, que ya no hay plata, ya no hay plata para tanta gente.
No hay cama para tanta gente.
Ya no hay plata para tanta gente.
Right.
Porque posiblemente para el año 35 ya el seguro social está extinto.
Right. And that's also when all of the cars should be going green.
Y los muchachos de hoy no se quieren casar. Entonces no va a haber...
We're not having children.
Tampoco hay niños. Tenemos el mismo problema que tiene China ahorita.
We have a lot of dogs.
Dog and cats. Tenemos dog and cats.
Right.
So entonces el problema social de los retiros está en duda, Jan.
No, 100%.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's
¿Cuál
why...
es tu recomendación? ¿Qué es lo que pasa? ¿Qué es lo que tú ves?
Well, I'm an extremist in that sense, like as an investor. I personally believe in high conviction investing. So I like having...
Como Buffett.
Maybe even more so.
Oh, okay.
I think it's... I think it was Peter Lynch, another famous investor, who said, I want to put all of my eggs in one basket and then just only watch that basket.
Right.
I think there's a lot of benefit when you're trying to acquire wealth to do that, to have high conviction investing. And I mean, we've seen it. You've seen it. I've seen it. We've worked with clients who, on their tax returns, because they own their own company, that is their only stock in some cases.
Right.
That is the only thing that they have. And so they work like hell to make sure that it works.
Yeah, claro.
And so unless you then go out and have a buyout, or unless you are already taking cash out from the company as you're going along and investing it, which is something that is very difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs to kind of figure out and do and make a habit, I mean, that's where a lot of books come into play, where they're telling you pay yourself first. That's
Okay.
one book. But the habit of paying yourself and investing it and saving it is not norm. And because of that, then you don't allow the investor to invest. And I think being an entrepreneur and then figuring out how to put on your hat to be an investor is very difficult. And you have to do your own self-analysis to realize, do you want to be that person who's going to be doing that?